Hello, everyone, and welcome to OneTake, a 15-minute interview series with InsurTech executives, brought to you by InsurTech Denver. This is a unique series in that there are no edits and no do-overs. I am Marc Wheeler, co-founder of InsurTech Denver, and with us today is Brett Jurgens, co-founder and CEO of Notion. Brett, good to see you again, and I appreciate you really joining us today.
Yeah, hey Mark, thanks for having me. A pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. So let's go ahead and jump in. So tell us about Notion and why homeowners need a monitoring system.
Yeah, Notion, we started Notion a little about 6.5 years ago. Co-founder and I, both actually from Longmont, went to CU in Boulder. So we're Colorado guys, started the company in Denver. And we really started out thinking Notion would be a smart smoke alarm. And we quickly also found out nobody buys smoke alarms, and this one was going to be way too expensive, and that what we really thought was needed was kind of whole home and whole property monitoring and protection. And so we got into Techstars, we raised some money early on and really started to build out that mission here. And what we built to enable for the best possible user experience, easiest setup, kind of least decisions to make during a purchase process or consideration process was a single device that monitors for multiple things simultaneously. We make one sensor that can monitor for smoke alarm sounding, theft, entry points, garage door, back door, front door, etc., water leaks, temperature, humidity, all in every single device. So you put one on your door, you put one near your water heater, you put one on your garage door, and you have, a full home security system that's set up that you can monitor, either self-monitor on your phone with no monthly fee, or we'll be launching in a beta here shortly a pro monitoring service coming up soon that will come back online with a whole lot of other things happening. That's kind of the core of what this does for a homeowner, and I think why InsurTech, 98% of our users today are homeowners starting to get more into small business, but of those, all of them have Notion for free through their insurance provider. Right. Provided to them either at the time they buy new insurance, at the time of renewal as kind of a retention tool for insurance companies, or at the time of claim. There's a lot of data that shows that if you have one water leak, you may be susceptible to another water leak, for example, and you have high churn at time of claim when the claim experience is poor. So as a retention tool, but also as a customer satisfaction tool during a claim, we've entered in at that point as well. So that's how we relate to insurance, and that's kind of how we relate to homeowners and what they need for property protection, more broadly speaking.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that background. It seems like you really came on at the right time as we saw this Internet of Things category grow, right? Around the home and technology and insurance coming into play. So I think timing was really great. So thank you for that. I do have a question for you, and I'm always curious about how companies get their names. So could you share with us how you came up with the name Notion? And do you recall, were there other names that you gave consideration to?
Well, that's why I'm laughing. This is actually the third name for the company. My co-founder and I'm more on the finance, biz dev, sales side. My co-founder Ryan is our CTO. So neither of us are branding experts and marketing experts. I say that to defend myself a little bit. So the very first name we came up with was Detect, like to detect something. Now, to get the website and the Twitter handle and all that stuff, it was D-TECHT. That's how we spelled that. So think about that for a second, and then just think how terrible it is and how confused you are that I even had to spell it for you. It's just not good. Right. We then became Loop. And there's just a lot of things called Loop, but to keep you in the loop was kind of the thought behind that one. Yeah. There was nothing legally speaking that we had to avoid, but just not good, not great in terms of kind of social assets and that stuff. And then we just kind of went through a brainstorm session. No real silver bullet answer on how we came up with the name, but we thought about like neural networks. We thought about the brand and what we wanted to represent. We really didn't want to be like scary traditional home security, where you've got the burglar standing over what's almost always the woman and the child, and like you're going to die unless you have home security. We really didn't want to be scare tactics. We really wanted to be neighborly. We really wanted to be informative. We really wanted to be comfortable and not techie and like not scary. And so we thought a lot about softer versions of like, I want you to know something. I want to inform you. And so the word Notion was short, easy to remember, and a word that isn't just some weird made up thing. And it really sort of expressed that we have a notion that something could be going on in your home. So it was connected to those things. And that's the very short version, but this is the third name that stuck finally after the first couple of years. So it's a little bit of a funny story on the naming side.
No, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. You, not everyone can appreciate the amount of effort that goes into a name, and all the implications behind it, right? And particularly if you start going into international markets, what does that mean? And what are the definitions for it? So thank you for that. That was really great.
Yeah, we actually launched in Japan about 3 years after founding the company. And we actually had to go check that. We had to make sure that Notion was okay, not having anyone that was native.
Right. Well,
to
I think the classic one was it Ford with their Novo, which is no go. So trying to go into a different market.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah, there's some good ones out there for sure.
Yeah.
But luckily we didn't have any issues. Finally.
Good to hear. Well, I know that, Notion products can be purchased at retail, and you have relationships, as you mentioned early on, with insurance carriers. I'd be curious, which relationship was harder to establish, the carrier side or the retail side?
Yeah. So just to be clear, we actually aren't in any brick and mortar retail stores. We're just online on digital in terms of being able to buy direct. Right. And we didn't push on that path. A company that I was the first employee at prior to this was almost all sold in brick and mortar retail. So I had a lot of experience there. And we just thought that there was a better way to go to market kind of through and with partner companies, and insurance just kind of continued to rise to the top for us. So now to answer a question you didn't ask directly, insurance is not the fastest moving industry on the planet. They are highly risk averse as carriers. And so early on, we had some good traction with innovation teams and innovation departments that ended up staying with innovation teams and innovation departments. And we got a lot smarter about how to sort of navigate within insurance companies to make sure we got champions within business units that had budgets, to make sure that the marketing aspect of what we do was very clear to carriers. And we started to get more into the marketing groups rather than just, I'd say, like the underwriting or claims prevention groups and those types of things. So it took us a little bit, because we weren't native from the insurance space in prior lives, to navigate those a little bit better. So I would say, generally speaking, like, insurance companies are sometimes very difficult to partner with. I'm not comparing them to retail, but sure. I think the one thing that's been a benefit, as you mentioned, in terms of our timing over the last, say, 5 years, is every insurance company we talk to wants to be more innovative. They want to get more data. They want to be differentiated against their competitors as, somewhat of a commodity that is really hard for them to be different. So I think there's that big advantage in this space, but not the most fast moving and innovative group on the planet, but that's part of kind of what we serve for partners.
Yeah, that's so true. When you talk about, the speed, it's not quite there. And, insurance in and of itself, is there, and the risk averse. But what has been interesting, and you brought to the party and other companies as well, is just access to data and being able to have the data and to help with the decisioning within the organization. And I think that's what you bring to the party. So let me ask a follow-up question around that. When you think about, who sits around the table with you from the insurance side, is that claims? Is it retention group? Is it, the data folks? Who's part of that conversation?
Yeah. So the way we look at kind of our value proposition to insurance is probably a little bit different than what most people think of on the surface. Everybody kind of thinks about what we do and thinks about reducing claims. Catch a water leak before it turns into a serious one and you don't have to file a claim. So loss prevention. The way we look at it is that is one of the 4 key components, but the first component is a massive improvement in terms of customer acquisition and a big decrease in customer acquisition cost. So we are utilized as a marketing tool and as a differentiator upfront. Retention and engagement is huge. We, especially entering at the time of claim or entering at the time of renewal, is helpful, but we also offer a full suite of co-branded opportunities, push notifications, emails, kind of as much as an insurer wants us to handle. We'll do a lot of marketing and co-branded marketing and education just on safe home ownership and things that go far beyond just what our sensors can monitor for.
Mhm.
So retention and engagement's a big one. We focus a lot on loss prevention, loss reduction for sure. And then number 4 is this interesting category, a very broad one of data and analytics, where our data can be used for a lot more than it's being used for today. And we're trying to push down some of those paths further. But we do provide a lot of interesting information that has impacts on a lot of folks in underwriting, a lot of folks even in product and new product creation. There's a lot that can be done with our data to think about new ways to insure, new kind of ways to customize insurance for certain people in certain areas. So that's a big growing category. But those are the 4 key areas. I would say generally incumbents are a lot more concerned or focused on engagement, retention, and loss reduction.
Mhm.
And a lot of the new InsurTechs, just the nature of being a startup, are focused on customer acquisition.
Sure.
And they don't need to focus as much on retention when they're 2 years old and trying to grow like a weed. And so
Right.
it depends on the order. So with an InsurTech, to go back to your question, we're really talking about the marketing folks. Incumbents, a lot of times we're talking to product and underwriting, sometimes claims, a little more broad on those fronts. But
Sure.
that's how I would categorize it and separate it out a little bit between the different parties.
Terrific. That's very helpful. I do have a follow-up question, and then that is, you can make the product available, but then there's the installation side of it. Has that
Yeah.
been a challenge for you, getting people to actually, install it and get it up and running for them?
Yeah, it's a challenge for any IoT company, no matter their go-to-market strategy. And I think people are surprised by that. So the data that I have that I'll share here is IoT, broadly speaking, has around a 40 to 60% installation rate, not going through insurance, but just IoT generally. A lot
Mhm.
of people get free gifts. A lot of people get Christmas presents. A lot of people buy stuff. They just don't install it. It's kind of human nature. And when we think about the insurance relationships we have, 1 plus 1 kind of equals 3, and this is one of the representations of that equation. So we have install rates depending on the program in the high 70s or low 80s. We still have some insurance partners or potential partners that have no clue why it's not 100%, like just don't quite understand it. And intuitively, I guess I kind of agree. Like, why would you not install this? Why would you not put it up? But a
Mhm.
lot of our customers get this when they buy new insurance, and a lot of those folks that are buying new insurance just moved into a house. Well, how organized and calm and in order is your life when you are moving into a new home? Well, it's crazy, and there's stuff all over the place. And so
Sure.
one of the interesting things that we've done with our partners that some folks, including us, were a little curious about, we thought this might backfire, but we remove discounts if you don't install Notion. Now, we don't do
Mhm.
that, the insurance company does. What it's turned into, though, is a really interesting and positive touch point. So in the first 60 days, if you don't install Notion, you will lose your discount that essentially you're sold on. You still have Notion, you can still utilize it, install it. And if you do end up installing it, it can get added back on. But we do a lot of outreach service as part of our installation efforts on behalf of
Mhm.
our partners and for our own benefit to homeowners who haven't installed yet. And 99% of them say, you know what? Yep, it's sitting right here. I got it from my insurance company and it seems cool, but I'm not sure how to utilize it. Can you help me understand it? Now that I have you on the phone, like, where should I put these sensors? It seems like they can be
Mhm.
used for all kinds of things. It's been a really great kind of positive initial touch point where I would argue most insurance companies kind of want to sell the policy and sort of hope to not hear from you
Mhm.
and kind of collect their $200 as they pass go every year. This has been a really interesting, like, hey, remember you just bought insurance from so and so. They're an amazing partner in home ownership, and they provided you with a free Notion system because they care about your home and the things that you love the most.
Yeah.
That's us. We're Notion, and we're here to help you. And just as a friendly reminder, we're going to remove the discount. So there's a little carrot and stick, but it's actually
Mhm.
increased our NPS overall by quite a bit, and it's really increased our install rates for making that effort.
Oh, that's great insights, and thank you for sharing that. I can understand that consumers get it. It's like, yeah, I know I need to do it, but seems like that outreach is just enough of a prompt to get them to take that next step.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot, and it's people just forget, they get busy. Some people
Yeah.
are concerned they're going to mess it up.
Oh, sure.
I hate when people say consumers are stupid. I think consumers are just scared that they are going to install technology wrong, right? Like, and it's our job
Right.
to make it feel comfortable. So
Right.
that's a part of it too.
Yep. Very good. Well, a broader question for you today is, many entrepreneurs out there, you are a poster child. You've lived the dream, right? You started a business. You took an idea to market. You built and you sold a business. Was that the path you had planned? Is that how you expected things to turn out?
Um, I don't know. It's a good question. I think Ryan and I have always just been focused on trying to grow the business and trying to get our product, which we think should be in every home, in order to get insurance. Like, we look at our product like a seatbelt in a car. Like it should be in a home in order to just get insurance in the first place, because it has such a big impact for the homeowner and protecting the things they love, and such a big impact for insurance companies. And so that's kind of our mission. And that's really what got us out of bed every morning.
Mm-hmm.
We had both worked at companies in the past that didn't have the greatest cultures, or were more focused on money than focused on kind of the mission at hand. And so that was important to us. And we also really wanted to build a company that we just loved and that we wanted to work at every day. So there was a big sort of builder mentality of like building products and solutions that really solve core problems for people in a meaningful way. And then also building the business, but building the people that are a part of that business, building employees, building equity value, et cetera. And we kind of always held those things high kind of together. We didn't set out a few years ago to say, we want to make sure that we sell this business within 7 or 8 years. Like, we didn't
Sure.
really have, I would say, this specific exit strategy in mind. I think naturally, just being an entrepreneur and not in the, or I should say, in the sort of for-profit space with venture capital money, there's an expectation to return that money, to try and make investors money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was always a part of it. I have a finance degree. I started my career in investment banking, so that was always a little bit on my mind. And I think that for most founders, it's kind of, IPO or acquisition, or what seems to be harder to do these days, or more rare, is like profitable, and you don't do either of those kind of liquidity
Right.
events. But I think one of those two kind of events, just given the nature of how much money we'd raise, it was a hardware business, kind of an expensive business to run overall, that one of those two things would potentially come along, and we would entertain those conversations at the right time and kind of think about how it felt emotionally, how it felt financially, all that kind of stuff. And so we had been partners with Comcast for about 1.5 years before the acquisition. Mm-hmm. We kind of knew who we would be working with. We knew which group we would probably be acquired into, and like how that would look and feel. We just knew a lot more about it. And when we went out to raise a subsequent round of capital, we ended up actually running a dual process of a fundraise, and then we got interest in an acquisition. And mm-hmm. So then we ran a dual process of the raise and the acquisition to see which path yielded the best results. And it just had a really great fit with Comcast. And it made sense for a lot of reasons. So that's a little bit more of the backstory, not too many details, but a little bit how it happened. But we didn't have a specific exit in mind early on.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you for that. As an entrepreneur, you may start out with one vision or one goal, and it can, morph and evolve as time goes on and opportunities present themselves.
Yeah.
So with that, you mentioned that you were acquired by Comcast, and on the website you have a statement that says Notion is now a Comcast company. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for the company, for the employees, and for your customers?
Yeah. For the company, we were acquired into the strategic development group at Comcast, which has a handful of other startups that operate pretty autonomously within that group. That was one of the reasons why we felt like this could be a really good fit for us. Mm-hmm. We weren't as excited about some of the other conversations we were having with other acquirers that sort of wanted to kind of plug our tech into some other solution and kind of split up the team and sort of just, absorb us into kind of a bigger company. We wanted to continue to push down the path of Notion's mission. And so like, I'm still CEO of Notion. Like, I'm not doing 10 other things for Comcast and sometimes do Notion stuff. It's like, right. Our team is still here. We still have our office in Denver. We have a number of remote employees now, given the new world that we operate in, but we still are Notion. And so that's kind of number one. And that transfers into things culturally where we still have our own culture, we still have our own rituals. Like there's a few things here and there that Comcast does that actually are bigger and better than we could have done on our own. But like, we've had a culture committee and an I&D committee for 5 or 6 years. Like, and Comcast has a lot of those kinds of efforts as well, but like we still do those things internally and have our own little flavors of those things, which is really special for all of our employees who didn't apply for a job at Comcast and they didn't work at Comcast. And then all of a sudden one day they worked at Comcast, and I'm in that boat too, where it's like, you know, I want to be CEO of this company. We all didn't apply for other jobs there. So how can we work that out? I think we've done, and Comcast has allowed us to do, frankly, a great job of keeping all that intact. Comcast just gives us like massive scale, massive amount of resources, massive balance sheet. I mean, we've had a handful of insurance companies, and I hate this as an entrepreneur, but it's true, say, we always loved what you did and wanted to do more, but we always hated that you were a startup. And now you're not. They're risk averse. Big companies a lot of times like to partner with big companies. I think the saying goes, you were never going to get fired if you chose IBM, or you're never going to get fired if you choose Salesforce. Some of those kinds of things ring true for folks. And so I get that, even though I hate it, but I get it. And that has proven out to be really beneficial for our business and in our growth and kind of our, I'd say our stature and clout within the industry is just that a major tech company who has 30 million customers, which is really interesting to think about selling insurance back into that group of customers at some point. So thinking about becoming a go-to-market strategy for our partners is an interesting twist on this, but being able to connect into that user base and play a bigger role kind of on the DIY home security side in addition to the insurance side is really interesting, and just the scale at which they operate is kind of mind-boggling. So it's just it's given us a lot of resources on those fronts.
Well, that's really nice to hear. I know that, you know, I think there's always some trepidation on the part of an entrepreneur when they have their business and they go to sell it. You know, it's acquired by a larger company. And what does it mean? What does it mean for us from a culture standpoint? And to your point, you know, focus on the business. So it sounds like you have a great partner there. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, it's been interesting to think about other options that we could have gone with that would have maybe been more controlling or would have really kind of broken up the company. And they've really allowed us to kind of, you know, retain everybody and build the business the way we kind of want to.
Sure.
It's been refreshing. You never really know until it happens. You can be told a lot of things along the way, but they've been true to their word, so to speak, on a lot of these topics for sure. So it's been good.
That's terrific. Well, I have one quick question for you and then a couple other really fast questions for you.
Sure. Yeah.
You gave us a hint about some new things that are coming out. What else is on the horizon for Notion that you'd like to share today?
Yeah. You know, I think that we're going to push down the path of kind of rounding out sort of the home security aspects of what we do, but there's a couple of things that we'll probably launch next year that have more to do with both water and fire kind of monitoring and detection in some really unique ways that I think will be really beneficial. And then we are looking at a handful of additional home services type partnerships. We have a home advisor partnership today where you can click a button and get a highly rated plumber that's available to your home quickly. I think we want to be able to automate even more of those kinds of things for people when appropriate, and potentially even automate some things on the insurance side, like claims processing and payments and those kinds of things at some point. That's to us more purposeful home automation than what a lot of home automation has been so far.
Sure.
So I think you'll see us push down a lot of those paths, both on the products and services side, with hopefully some cool announcements coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then we do have a handful of fun partnerships to talk about. We just signed today. I won't say who it is quite yet, but there should be a press release with actually in Australia. So we don't have intentions to go massively international, but I do think there's some underserved markets like Australia and Canada that are interesting for us to be able to kind of start to push our way into, given the resources we have with Comcast.
Oh, that's really exciting. Well, we'll look forward to those announcements coming out. We're going to shift gears real quick. We're going to go into a fun part that's some rapid questions. So
Sweet.
if you're ready, I'm ready.
Let's make it happen.
All right. What's your favorite summer activity?
Um, I'd probably have to say golf, though being from Colorado, I do like 5 or 6 summer activities, but when I have time, I like to golf.
All right. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite winter activity? Is that going to be golf as well?
No, that's got to be snowboarding.
All right. Favorite day of the week?
Favorite day of the week. This is just like sick, but it's probably Monday because I'm like psyched to get going. And I get up super early in the morning. And so sometimes on the weekends, I feel like if they're too slow, I'm bored and I'm like kind of pissed off and I want to just like go. And so I'm always ready to go on Mondays.
All right. Now, your favorite city in the US besides the one you live in?
So live in Denver, and I do love Boulder, but I'm going to say that that's too close to home given the parameters you set. So I probably would have to say Austin. I have a best man at my wedding is from Austin. I've been going down there at least once a year for 15 years, and I just know the city well, and I just kind of love the city and scene down there.
Oh, yeah. Austin is great. Now, when you were growing up, did you have a nickname that your parents or friends or family gave you?
I didn't. I have no fun story to share on that front. I did not have a nickname.
That's all right. I didn't either. So that's all right. What's your
Yeah.
favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday for me is Christmas, which is maybe kind of a cop out, but I think for me it was always just I was an only child growing up, and so for us a lot of Christmas was like going and being with other big groups of people, and so it was always fun to go like I just spend time with other people because I was an only child.
Sure.
It's kind of simple, and like now my wife has a big extended family, so every year it's just like this massive
Nice.
group of people and party, and that's fun to me. It strikes me a little different versus people who grew up with a bunch of siblings around them all the time.
Oh, that's great. All right, we have two more questions for you. This
Yeah.
is a fill in the blank. Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is,
Innovative.
all right. And last question for you. Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
uh, Definitely not.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for us today. Thank you so much for your
Cool.
time and the insights. We ran a little bit longer than usual, but gosh, we got a lot of information. We really appreciate you sharing with us more about the business and how you approach it. I think it's really insightful for us. So with that, we'll call it a wrap, and thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Pleasure. Thank you.